Greetings, YouTube. This is Bloodfinger here, once again cosplaying as Anton LaVey. Today I like to read another chapter in the Satanic Bible. Some evidence of a new satanic age. The 7 deadly sins of the Christian church are greed, pride, envy, anger, gluttony, lust, and sloth. Satanism advocates indulging in each of these sins as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. A Satanist knows there's nothing wrong with being greedy, as it only means that he is more than he already has, wants more than already has. Envy means to look with favor upon the possessions of others, and to be desirous of obtaining similar things for oneself. Envy and greed are the motivating forces of ambition, and without ambition, very little of any importance would be accomplished. Gluttony is simply eating more than you need to keep yourself alive. When you have overeaten to the point of obesity, another sin, pride, will motivate you to regain an appearance that will renew your self-respect. Anyone who buys an article of clothing for a purpose other than covering his body and protecting it from the elements is guilty of pride. Satanists often encounter scoffers who maintain that labels are not necessary. Excuse me. It must be pointed out to these destroyers of labels that one or many articles they themselves are wearing are not necessary to keep them warm. There is not a person on this earth who is completely devoid of ornamentation. The Satanist points out that any ornamentation of the scoffer's body shows that he too is guilty of pride, regardless of how verbose the cynic may be in his intellectual description of how free he is still wearing the elements of pride. Being reluctant to get up in the morning is to be guilty of sloth. If you lie in bed long enough, you may find yourself committing yet another sin. Lust. To have the faintest stirring of sexual desires, to be guilty of lust. In order to ensure the propagation of humanity, nature made lust the second most powerful instinct, the first being self-preservation. Realizing this, the Christian church made fornication the original sin. In this way, they made sure no one would escape sin. Your very state of being is a result of sin. The original sin? The strongest instinct is every living thing is self-preservation. Which brings us to the last of the 7 deadly sins, anger. It is not our instinct for self-preservation that is aroused when someone harms us. When we become angry enough to protect ourselves from further attack, the Satanists practice the motto, if a man smite thee on one cheek, smash him on the other. Let no wrong go unaddressed. Be as a lion in the path. Be dangerous even in defeat. Since man's natural instincts led him to sin, all men are sinners, and all sinners go to hell. If everyone goes to hell, then you will meet your friends there. Heaven must be populated with some rather strange creatures if they live far as to go to a place where they can strum harps for eternity. Times have changed. Religious leaders no longer preach that all our natural actions are sinful. We no longer think sex is dirty, or that taking pride in ourselves is shameful, or that wanting something someone else has is vicious. Of course not. Wanting somebody else has is vicious. Oh, wait, of course not. Hang on. Times have changed. If you want proof of this, just look at how liberal the churches have become. Why they're practicing all the things that you preach. They're practicing all the things that you preach. Satanists hear these and similar statements all the time. And they agree wholeheartedly, but if the world has changed so much, why continue to grasp at the threads of a dying faith? If many religions are denying their own scriptures because they are out of date and are preaching the philosophies of Satanism. This is a longer page, by the way. Why not call it by its rightful name, Satanism? Certainly it would be far less hypocritical. In recent years, there has been an attempt to humanize the spiritual concept of Christianity. This has manifested itself in the most obvious non-spiritual means. Masses which had been said in Latin are now said in native languages, which only succeeds in making the nonsense easy to understand, and at some time robs the ceremony of the esoteric nature which is consistent with the tenets of dogma. It is such simpler to obtain emotional reaction using words or phrases that can not be understood than and at the same time robs the esoteric nature, which is testament of dogma, which is simpler to obtain an emotional reaction using words and phrases that cannot be understood. That it is statements which even the simplest mind will question when hearing them in the understandable language. If priests and ministers were to have used devices to fill their churches 100 years ago that they use today, they would have been charged with heresy, called devils, oft-times persecuted, but certainly excommunicated without hesitation. The religionists wail, "We must keep up with the times," forgetting that due to the limiting factors and deeply ingrained laws of white light religions, there can never be sufficient change to meet the seeds of man. Past religions have always represented the spiritual nature of man with no concern for his carnal or mundane needs. They have considered this life but transitory, and the flesh merely a shell, physical trivial pain and worthwhile preparation for the kingdom of God. How well the utter hypocrisy comes forth with when the righteous make a change in their religion to keep up with man's natural change. The only way that Christianity can ever completely serve the needs of man to become a Satanist is now. It has become necessary for a new religion based on man's natural instincts to come forth. They have named it. It is called Satanism. It is that power condemned that has caused the religious controversy over birth control measures. A disgruntled admission for sexual activity for fun is here to stay. It is the devil who calls women to show their legs to titillate men. The same kind of legs now is socially acceptable to gaze upon, which are revealed by young nuns as they walk about in their shortened habits. With one a delightful step in the right direction or left direction, it is possible that we will soon see topless nuns essentially throwing their bodies out into the Missa Solemnis Rock. Forgive me if I got that name wrong. Satan smiles and says he would like that fine many nuns are very pretty girls with nice legs. Many churches, some of the largest congregations, have the most hand-clapping sensual music, also satanically inspired. After all, the devil always had the best tunes. Church picnics, despite of all of Aunt Martha's talk about the Lord's bountiful harvest, are nothing more than a good excuse for Sunday gluttony. Everyone knows that lots more than Bible reading goes on the bushes, goes in, goes on in the bushes. The fundraising adjunct to many church bazaars is commonly known as a carnival, which used to mean the celebration of the flesh. Now, a carnival is okay because the money goes to the church so that it can preach against the temptations of the devil. It will be said that these things are only pagan devices and ceremonies that the Christians borrowed them. True, but the pagans reveled in the delights of the flesh and were condemned by the very same people who celebrate their rituals but call them by different names. Priests and ministers are in the front lines of the peace demonstrations and lying on railroad tracks in front of the trains carrying war materials, which is such as dedications, as our brothers of the cloth from the same seminaries who are blessing the bullets and bombs fighting men as chaplains in the armed forces. Someone must be wrong. Someplace could it be that Satan is the one qualified to act as accuser? Certainly they named him that. When a puppy reaches maturity, it becomes a dog. When ice melts, it's called water. When 12 months have been used up, we get a new calendar with the proper chronological names. When magic becomes scientific, we refer to it as medicine, astronomy, etc. When one name is no longer appropriate for a given thing, is the only logical change it to the new one, which, oh my goodness, there's a lot more pages here. Better fits the subject. Why then do we not follow suit in the area of religion? Why continue to call it a religion by the same name, but in the tenets of that religion no longer fit the original one? Or if the religion does preach the same things that it always has, but its followers practice nearly none of its teachings, why do they continue to call themselves by the name given to followers of that religion? If you do not believe that what your religion teaches, why continue to support a belief which is contradictory with your feelings? You would never vote for a person or issue you do not believe in, so why cast your ecclesiastical, I can't pronounce that word, sorry, vote for a religion which does not consent with your convictions? You have no right to complain about a political situation you have voted for or supported in any way, which includes sitting back and complacently agreeing with the neighbors who approve the situation just because you're too lazy or cowardly to speak your mind. So it is with religious balloting. Even if you cannot be aggressively honest about your opinions because of unfavorable consequences from employers, community leaders, etc., you can at least be honest with yourself in the privacy of your own home. And with close friends, you must support the religion which has your best interest at heart. Satanism is based on the very sound philosophy of Ida, said the Emancipated. But why call it Satanism? Why not call it something like humanism, or a name that would have connotation of a witchcraft group? Nothing a little more esoteric. This humanism is not a religion, and it is simply a way of life with no ceremony or dogma. Satanism has both ceremony and dogma. Dogma, as will be explained in its necessary, Satanism differs greatly from all their so-called white witchcraft or magical groups in the world today. These self-righteous, supercilious religions protest that their members use the powers of magic only for altruistic purposes. Satanists look with disdain upon white witchcraft groups because they feel their altruism is sinning on the layaway plan. It is unnatural not to have the desire or to gain things for yourself. Satanism represents a form of controlled selfishness. This does not mean you're never doing anything for anyone else. If you do something like make someone whom you care happy, his happiness will give you a sense of gratification. Satanism advocates practicing a modified form of the golden rule. Our interpretation of this rule is do unto others as they do unto you, because if you do not unto others, do unto others as they do unto you, because of you, or do unto others as they do unto you. I read that twice, excuse me. Because of you, do not unto others as you would have them done to you. Sorry, that took a while to pronounce. And they in turn treat you badly. It goes against human nature to continue to treat them with consideration. You should do unto others as you would have them do unto you, but if your courtesy is not returned, then they must be treated with the wrath they deserve. White witchcraft groups says if you curse a person, it will return to you in threefold. Come home to roost, or in some way boomerang back to the sender. This is yet another indication of the guilt-ridden philosophy which is held by these neo-pagan pseudo-Christian groups. White witches want to delve into witchcraft, but cannot divorce themselves from the stigma attached to it. Therefore, they call themselves white magicians and base 75% of their philosophy on the trite and the hackneyed tenets of Christianity. Anyone who pretends to be interested in magic or occult for reasons other than his gain and personal power is the worst kind of hypocrite. The Satanist respects Christianity for at least being consistent with the guilt-ridden philosophy, but only feel contempt for people who attempt to appear emancipated from guilt by joining a white witchcraft group. Witchcraft group, and then practice the same basic philosophy as Christianity. White magic is supposedly utilized only for good or unselfish purposes, and black magic, we are told, is used for selfish or evil reasons. Satanism draws no such dividing line. Magic is magic, be it used to help or hinder. The Satanist, being the magician, should have the ability to decide what is just and apply the powers of magic to attain his goals. During white magical ceremonies, the practitioners stand within a pentagram to protect themselves from the evil forces which they call upon for help. To the Satanist seems a bit... I have to stop right there because I'm running out of time on this computer. I hope we can continue this chapter tomorrow. Maybe some other day, but I wanted to say to you guys, Hail Satan, and I hope you guys learned something from this Satanic Bible. Why am I involved with the church? Why am I wearing this robe and mask? Well, I admire Anton LaVey. This is not an attempt to make fun or mock him. I just want to impersonate the guy in a playful kind of way, not in like a mocking way, but like a playful kind of way. Cosplay, of course. So if any of my fellow Satanists are offended by this costume, I apologize in advance. So, if you don't have a copy of the Satanic Bible and you are interested in the occult or magic or whatever you want, this book is the key to gaining your desires to become reality. Excuse me, I'm out of fucking breath. I'm ready to like F ton of pages. Sorry, YouTube, you're gonna have to forgive me. I'm gonna have to turn this off for now because I'm running low on camera space. So, Hail Satan, and I'll talk to you again next time.